Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm thrilled to have Ron Robledo as my guest today. Ron is the founder and creator of Out of the Ashes Comics. He is a creative director, author of 2 award-winning children's books, has a Bachelor of Science in Business Marketing, is a former instructor at Art Center College of Design, a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, contributor to NAACP ACTSO, which is a high school mentor program, past executive board member of the Monrovia History Museum, and a member of the Pasadena Mexican American History Association. As a former Walt Disney Imagineer, he worked on the design of Disneyland's The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh attraction, and was the lead researcher for the 100 Years of Magic event, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the birth of Walt Disney. Most importantly, he is a former Disneyland Jungle Cruise skipper. Welcome, Ron, and thank you so much for joining me today to discuss the characters you've created, and in particular, how some relate to those with special needs and disabilities.
Thank you so much for having me. That was quite a list. How old am I?
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite is the Jungle Cruise skipper because ever since I was young, I'll tell you, every time I went to Disneyland, had to go on that ride. So you definitely make points with that one. So to get started, tell me, where do your ideas come from as a writer?
They come from all over. There's no one place. As you mentioned, I've authored a couple of children's books, and one of the ideas actually came to me when I was in elementary school, and I actually didn't write the story until about 7 or 8 years ago. So they come from all over.
So then, tell me, Ron, why comic books? Why develop your ideas into comic books as opposed to any other media?
Because I've been a comic book nerd for over a half century. I know that somewhere in my mom's vast collection of photos of our family, there's a picture of me on a tricycle with a Batman sweatshirt on and my blanket wrapped around my neck and a little Batman sticker on the front of my tricycle. And that was taken over 50-something years ago. So I've been a comic book nerd forever. Still am. Love the Marvel movies. Again, Marvel and DC. Completely dig them. But for me, one of the things as a person of color, of Spanish and Native American descent, there aren't a lot of people who kind of reflect myself and my family. Again, I have a tattoo of Captain America on my arm, so it's not like I'm trying to just push people of Spanish descent. But I noticed that there weren't any. So as I started to create some of my characters, I thought, well, why not have them be of Spanish descent? I have a few others that aren't, but you write what you know about. So I get to draw upon my own personal background and add to my characters.
So since we're talking about characters, tell me a little bit more about the particular characters that you develop. In particular, tell me about one character called the Tank and some of the other characters that you've been working on recently.
Well, the Tank is actually, again, you draw from your personal experience based on an uncle of mine who passed away years ago, but he had Down syndrome. And I thought usually superheroes, when they are in their alter ego, whether it's Clark Kent, Peter Parker, mild-mannered, right? You wouldn't suspect that these characters would actually be superheroes. So I thought, what if we created a comic book character based on my uncle who had Down syndrome, which would make for an even more difficult story to tell, number one, because as the character becomes a superhero and gets his power, he realizes that he can't really talk much because of his pattern of speech without giving himself away. So it makes for an even more difficult way for him to communicate and do what he honestly always dreamed of doing.
Are there other characters as well that you have had a particular motivation or inspiration about from family, or some particular characters that are really close to your heart?
Yeah. And in fact, let me just add one more thing to that particular character, the tank.
Sure.
One of the things that I did is I based his relationship with his grandmother. He lives with his grandmother, who's a sweet woman, and just always being affectionate with him. When he obtains his power, unfortunately, one of the negative effects with him is, his sense of touch has been reduced to the point where the loving caresses from his grandmother and kisses he can no longer feel. So he, on one hand, he's able to do something to help out society, and on the negative part is with that power, he no longer can feel the affection of his grandmother. One of the other characters that I have is who's the West Coast Wolf. Most of my characters take place on the West Coast because most superheroes take place on the East Coast. So I figured, hey, I'm from LA. Let's again write what you know about. One of them was actually based. The West Coast Wolf was actually based on a friend of mine who, little tiny woman of, again, Spanish descent. She was in an accident in Mexico. We find out that a car had flipped over and landed on her sister, and this, 5-foot-nothing woman actually, with the adrenaline rush, was able to pick up the car off of her sister.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was. She saved her sister's life because of that adrenaline rush. And so my thought was, not at the time, but later, I said, what would you be able to do if you could harness that energy, that adrenaline rush, and just with a flip of a switch, turn it off and on? And after talking to a few friends and some medical people, they said, well, that can't last for long, because if you're going to be using it that much energy, that much of your body's content, eventually it's going to wear your body down. Could result in not just muscular decline, but also in organ damage. So this character chooses to continue to use his newfound ability, which is to turn the essentially superhuman strength because of an adrenaline rush on and off. But the negative effect of it is he's literally killing himself to save his city.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. That's quite an inspiration. Absolutely. Then what are the hopes and the goals that you have for your comic books that you've been working on?
Well, I hope that they inspire. I remember as a teenager watching a little-known movie called Hero at Large. The actor's name is slipping me at this point. But I remember after I saw this movie, I was walking out of the theater. It was a little local theater, and I saw this guy who looked very shady, and my thought was, he's wearing gloves during the summer. And my thought was, he's going to break into somebody's house. You can just kind of feel the vibe the way he was walking. And my thought was, in my head, does he know that I just came from this movie that inspired me and that I'm not going to stand by and let this happen? And fortunately for me, nothing ever happened. But it was that. I remember talking to a little boy who was picking on his sister. This was just a few years ago. And kind of doing the Spider-Man lecture to him and saying, why are you picking on somebody who is weaker than you, especially your own family? You're stronger than she is. Your goal in life is to protect your sister because she is smaller, she's younger, and weaker. I said, just like Spider-Man would for his friendly neighborhood. And you could literally see the change on this boy's face and his body. I was like, wow, that was kind of interesting. My hope is that people who are similar to myself and others as well will find these stories inspiring. As much as I love the Marvel movies, I think that people may not be able to relate because they're essentially not just saving the neighborhood or the world now, they're saving the universe. And I like to have it a little bit more where it's a personal touch, where people can see
a little more earthbound.
My character, absolutely, yes, yeah. A little more neighborhood bound. So that's kind of the hope. My hope is also at one point that kind of like Homeboy Industries and what they've been able to do for some of their inner city kids is actually take some inner city kids and give them an opportunity, whether it's to do illustration, line art, inking, or even storytelling. I'd love to be able to get some of them involved and have them participate. At the very least, be able to get some sort of a roundtable discussions so that they could be a part of the storytelling. That's another one of my hopes.
Well, it's a wonderful way to influence people, definitely. So tell me, do you have any personal favorite comic book characters?
Oh, well, yeah. I have superheroes inked on my forearms.
Okay. Captain America. We know that's one. Okay.
Yes. I like to say I may be of Spanish descent, but I believe red, white, and blue. Spidey's always been a favorite. I think because when I was a kid, I was growing up and reading comic books. Spider-Man started out as a high school student. And that's where a couple of my characters are. They're actually high school students. It's just Batman because, unlike most superheroes, he has no superpowers. It's his brain. I've always thought that was interesting. He is among the elite superheroes, and his superpower is his mind and his body. Just kind of the standard. Just absolutely dig what Disney and Marvel have done with the Avengers, and inspiring for me as far as a storyteller goes.
So then tell me, how can our listeners reach you if they want to know more about your work and maybe get some of your comic books?
They can reach me by going to outoftheashescomics.com. They can reach me by emailing me at ron@outoftheashescomics.com. And these comics have actually been a goal of mine for almost a decade. But, as a husband and a father and somebody who works, having, as you mentioned, still am a creative director and having taught in higher education, to have the time until the last couple of years where I finally started writing down these characters and coming up with websites and stories. And I'm hoping within the next 6 months to finally publish my first comic. So they're going to be self-published, but hopefully we'll be able to make a dent. Hopefully we'll be able to fill that area where, again, there's not a lot of people of Spanish descent. But I think my characters have enough personality where people will appreciate both sides of the coin, with these, their true identity as well as their superhero persona. One of the other characters that I didn't mention that I would really like to is that I would like to touch on. Did mention obviously the Tank and him having Down syndrome, and I mentioned also the West Coast Wolf. He has a cousin from Mexico, and one of the things that I'd like to draw attention to is human trafficking, and he goes to Mexico to save his cousin who had been kidnapped and put into human trafficking. And it started out just writing that to bring attention to that topic. But the story kind of took on a life of its own, and his cousin actually, when he goes to save her, again, because the wolf only has about 15 minutes worth of superhero strength at a time. After that, it's almost as if he had run a marathon, and his energy and he will collapse. So he goes to rescue his cousin and essentially says, we need to go now. And his cousin, who has those superhero powers, tells him, I'm not leaving without the girls that are here. He says, well, if you don't leave now with me, you'll die. She says, well, if I die, I'm going to take out some of these guys with me, but I'm not leaving without the rest of the girls. And here she is, just a normal woman who is saying, if it means I'm risking my life to save the others here, then so be it. One thing leads to another, and obviously she becomes her own character. But it was kind of interesting the way that this character came about by trying to bring that information to light, because I kind of feel like there's not enough that's talked about human trafficking.
Well, Ron, your work sounds not only very salient, but very important. And I can't wait for that first comic book to be published and to come out. And when that time comes, I want to invite you back to come back on the podcast to talk about it and to let people know that it's available, because I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to want to read it.
I really hope so. And again, I just want to also mention that one of the other organizations that I started, because I don't have enough plates in the air that I'm spinning. I'm starting an organization called Locals, which is the Latino organization of comic book originators. That was an easy one to come up with, by the way. And the idea is, again, to focus on people of Spanish descent, whether they're artists, whether they're writers, but to join the organization, somebody does not need to be of Spanish descent. They just need to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm working on, and here are some of the things that I'm doing to help to push good characters of Spanish descent. Because, again, some of the ones that are out there currently, they just don't set the best example.
Well, if someone is interested in joining that organization, can they do it through your website, or do they have
Absolutely,
to go
yes.
to a different one? They can. Do you want to repeat your website one more time?
Yeah, outoftheashescomics.com. They can contact me and they can join my organization. Again, that's to inspire and promote. But yeah, and anybody that has any questions or would like some more information, absolutely, they can again contact me at Ron at outoftheashescomics.com.
Thank you so much, Ron, for your time and for sharing some fun and very inspiring stories with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I also want to thank our listeners for spending a part of their day with us. I'm Gilda Evans, reminding you to take care of yourself and that special person in your life.